This tool has generated quite a bit of hype over the last couple of weeks. This is the Gen R from ROCKTOL. Now, it's based on a very popular format of multi-tool, and it has some materials that we have not really seen before. The question is it worth the price, or is it something you should skip? Let's go ahead and get started. Let me kick this off with some background. You may not have ever seen these tools, so let me explain what you're looking at. These are essentially Frankenstein hybrids based on implementation that was pretty much pioneered by Tim Leatherman and the team who developed the Leatherman Wave, okay? Now the patents for that were started in 1998 and they expired in 2018. And since then we have seen a whole bunch of different budget-related multi-tools utilizing the same basic technology, okay? So these are a product of that, and they've started to really nail it down to almost a perfection level, and that's what we're getting with this sort of Frankenstein design. The ROCKTOL is trying to kind of jump up to the next tier because it has a VG10 blade. So I do think this is a pretty significant jump up from the 7CR 18 MOV that's found in something like the BIBURY. The question will be, is there enough of a difference between these two to justify the $25 difference? This is $55 while this one right here is only $30. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, I've discovered a few things about this tool that start to move things in ROCKTOL's favor, but I still am not so sure that it's worth the upgrade. It's going to depend heavily on the consumer and what their feelings are. Okay, so with that, let's go through the tool set as we would any other tool. So we have a straight blade. In this case, we've got VG10. It came very sharp out of the box. They did a very good job. And it does actually have a sharpening choil. The grind is, it's not the most even, especially out here towards the tip. It's a little bit thicker, but I've seen far worse on Leatherman, so I'm not super picky about that part of it as much as some might be. And you can always resharpen if you want. Now, on the other side, you have a serrated blade. Now, this is a charge style serrated blade with a pull cutter, which I very much appreciate. And I think a lot of others will as well. So really, really nice job there. You also have a saw, right? Nice sharp teeth. It is tapered, meaning that it's going to be thicker at the teeth than it is at the spine. It won't bind up in your wood, which is a must. You got to have it with tapering. And then on the outside, we have the last tool, which is a full-sized scissor. Now, we don't see a wave or a charge with a full-size scissor on the outside. And it's too bad, really, because it's one of the things I think people like so much about the Leatherman Surge. Now, this scissor is decent. I gotta say, you do have to put a lot of pressure in this direction in order to get it to cut correctly. But that's something I'm used to with multi-tools in general, whether it's the Wave or the Surge. You kind of have to do this in order to get it to perform correctly. All right, so just keep that in mind. It does, however, have one drawback, and this is true with the Surge clones, it's true with the Wave clones. Right at the tip, you'll notice it's slightly rounded right there, and that is going to prevent it from being able to do precision cuts at the very tip. Something like the Victorinox can do this in spades and does it very, very, very well. So it's not the best scissor in the world, but it still cuts decently well. All right. You can, however, modify that scissor, grind down that tip so that it can cut precisely. And that's something I would do if I had this tool. Take a Dremel tool or a belt grinder and just quickly remove that little bit of material to make it more precise at the tip. Okay, one other thing of note. Pocket clip here, straight blade here. That's where it should be, right? It should be opposite the pocket clip so that you can immediately access it. If you look at the one from BIBURY, it's the serrated blade in that spot instead. You have to flip it around to get access to the straight blade. Now, you might prefer to have the serrated blade access, because then this is what you're going to use for utility tasks, and then you keep your straight blade sharp. So I don't think there's necessarily a winner in this, just that there's a distinct difference, and I want to make sure we note that. While we have the tools closed, I'm also going to point out we have a different finish. So this one is made to look very similar to the Leatherman Free series, like the Free P4 and P2, which I think may be discontinued now. And this one is titanium nitride coated. I far prefer this coating for a number of reasons. Number one, it's going to protect the scales, but more importantly, it always irks me a little bit that they're trying to make it look almost identical to another tool. I know that's maybe, you know, I'm already past the point by buying this, but it would be nice to have more. It's just not necessary is what I'm getting at, okay? So I do prefer this a little bit more. It is, however, not going to protect any other part of this tool. All of these other components are made in 3 and 5 CR. They're still going to rust as normal. Okay, so that's that. Let me also talk to you briefly about weight. Now, I need to go get my scale, but I want to show you something that's kind of a little interesting. Of course, my scale seems to be AWOL. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but I will put the weights for it right over here. Now, what I noted about this is approaching, not quite, but it's approaching that 10-ounce mark. 10 ounces is quite a bit. For comparison, the Leatherman Arc is 8.6 ounces. So it's still a significantly heavier tool. And there's places they could have really cut weight. One of these examples is like these little metal spacers. There's 4 of them. They're solid steel. They could easily have just made this G10 or something like that, or glow-in-the-dark plastic material. They don't really offer any structure. They just take up extra weight. It was a missed opportunity to cut some of that weight. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to carry in the pocket than some of the lighter tools out there, like the Curl, for instance, which is 7.6 ounces. I would love to see a variation that is trimming every little scrap of weight from this thing so that you could make it a more compact tool. I wouldn't even mind seeing one that has 2 fewer layers, kind of similar to the P2, and that might be very, very enticing for someone like me who just wants a compact EDC that I could recommend at a sub $50 budget. All right, that was probably a bit of an aside. Now, it seems to me with all of these tools are pretty much in the same ballpark as far as weight is concerned. So that's also a wash. Now, going to the inside, you're going to notice a couple of things. Number one, if you've never seen this before, this plier head might find very familiar. Take a look at this Leatherman Arc. You'll notice that the plier head is very similarly shaped. Now, shapes of plier heads are not patentable in any way, so there's technically nothing wrong about this. And since Leatherman claimed when they made the P4 that this is the strongest shaped plier head design they've ever come up with, it seems logical to take advantage of that information and do it yourself as well. And that's exactly what has happened with these budget clone models, right? They've taken this design. So we have a charge style serrated blade. We have a Free Series plier head. We have a frame design similar to the Leatherman Wave. What else can we come up with? So let's talk about the rest of this. We have a full 1/4 inch bit driver in both of these. Now this is a ball detent double-sided bit, and both of these come with spare bits. Now this is something even the Leatherman Wave doesn't do. It doesn't come with any spare bits. Both of these also can be modified using a 6mm by 1mm thick disc magnet to accept standard 1/4 inch bits. Okay, very easy to do. Just drop it in there, literally. It'll be enough metal to actually hold on and stay. You could glue it if you want, but it's not even necessary. And still, it will function with the ball detent, which is great. All right, this is part of the reason why they're so much heavier. The width in the frame is also quite a bit more than you'll find in Leatherman Wave, even the Leatherman Surge. So that's why the plier heads are thicker, and it's also why they are able to fit these 1/4-inch bit drivers. Actually, something I really like that, well, it's something that should be adapted in the Leatherman series. And this has also allowed them to fit not 1, 2, 3, but 5 implements in the opposite side. Both of these are identical from BIBURY and from ROCKTOL. There are other companies making the same basic shaped multi-tool, and they also have 5 implements here, just like so. What I noticed, and this is quite interesting, is that especially with the Phillips on the micro driver, this is not really well formed. It feels like it may not work at all. But when I look at it in comparison to the one we have here, much higher quality, like way higher quality on this bit driver, in my opinion. And that really surprised me. I did not see that coming. So I like that. And the other thing I noticed is that if you look at the reamer awl, which is very sharp at the tip and very sharp there, it's a lot more dull on the BIBURY. Interesting, for sure. Now, both of these have basically the same diamond file. None of them should be used for a flathead, so please, for the love of Mike, don't do that. They also have a 1/4-inch file on the, a crosscut file on the back, not 1/4-inch, crosscut file on the back. So the ability to sharpen a knife or to repair hardened steel parts, it's not a huge file, but it is a nice thing to have. So I really like that. I'd go back and forth on whether you should have a file on the outside with a scissor on the inside or the reverse. But because a file can be genuinely thinner, I think they might have made the correct choice. They did, however, in order to make it that long, they had to put all of these little angled pieces so that the plier head could then sit inside. Very, very interesting. Overall, I think they did a pretty good job. And this is a tool set that I've never seen in any other tool from any other, like major company. Like the combination that they've been able to fit in this, whether it's made by or distributed by ROCKTOL, BIBURY, SQT, Swiss Tech, or anyone else, it's very, very impressive. This is probably my favorite setup of any of the clones out there. Which, to conclude, is it worth the additional cost? So this has VG10 steel, what appears to be slightly better quality control, a pretty decent sheath, although I kind of like the clip on the BIBURY a little bit more, personally. Not that I'd use either one if I was going to carry one of these. I don't think, it's close, it's closer than I initially thought, but I'm still not sure I would spend $25 more on the ROCKTOL than the BIBURY. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. 7CR versus VG10. Yes, VG10 is much, much better. That's not enough of a reason to jump up almost twice as much in cost. And occasionally you can find this for as little as 26, sometimes even 23 bucks. So, no. And to add insult to injury, I feel like if this had been $49.99, at least it would fall into what I call a budget tool, but being over 50 bucks, it's not really even a budget tool anymore. For $5 more, I end up with a Leatherman Bond. And yes, it doesn't have the same tool set, but it's assembled in America, 25-year warranty, really good quality control. You know, you start getting into that cost that it's no longer a budget tool anymore. So for me, I need to see a price reduction for me to really start considering it. There's things about it I really like the additional quality control, the VG10 blade, the titanium nitride coated handles, but overall, I think I'd still stick with a $30 multi-tool. But maybe I'm wrong. Let me know down in the comments. What are your thoughts about this? Is it worth it to you to have the upgraded blade steel, the improved quality control, it seems? Or would you rather just use this $30 clone? Now, there's obviously a purpose for having a higher quality multi-tool, and there's a purpose for having budget tool as well. Backups, you know, you can fit them in more places. They're great for loaners and that kind of thing. I think to that effect, I would be less likely to loan this out than this one. So that's pretty much it. As always, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.